everyone to the LEC Spring Season. G2 is about to play Astralis, and we do apologize for the small delay as to getting into game. We also were supposed to run the perks video right before our segment so we could react to it, but we have already seen it, and it was good to hear from perks, although we got some mean questions from production about beating the LPL and whatnot, but we'll let that one fly.
Throw us under the bus. I'm going to the region that can actually beat LPL.
I mean, he's been going hard on that.
That really stung. I do, however, love when the question was like, name everybody on Immortals. Like, well, I think it's
just wild guessing.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's cool. We'll be doing these check-ins with perks, I guess, throughout the year to see how he's doing, if he can keep up his end of the bargain with placing better than EU and whatnot at international tournaments.
The thing that I want to throw in, because our producers and our production team obviously gave him some difficult North American focused questions. The next one is going to be, is Rekkles doing better than you did in G2 in the bottom lane? Because not only has he taken over the torch, based on the 3 games you've seen, he popped off. I mean, you can take a look, first, second, or third when it comes to KDA detriment.
What a KDA player, 47.
Has always been a KDA player. Went unkilled in his first 2 games, but I think more crucially, more importantly to me is like on PGL with Grabs, where Grabs was talking a lot, or on the interview with Grabs, correction, where he was talking a lot about how Rekkles was fitting into the team and the mentality. That was something I wasn't sure about, you know? Rekkles has always been a fairly serious, very stern kind of guy. G2 are not, but it's good to see that they're meshing well.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the voice comms as well that LEC published, you know, Rekkles is saying, well, you can pick me Sivir. I have no clue what I'm building, but pick me Sivir. That's basically G2 in a nutshell, so he's already embraced it.
Yeah, and that's a great point as well. Just a question not only, you know, is it going to fit within G2, but how is G2 going to change to play with Rekkles? And if we look at the first week, he got so much freedom to do what he likes doing. And what was also interesting is that Caps got no attention from Jankos, got no attention in terms of getting the CS share. It all went to Rekkles. So Caps is kind of in the backseat now. I think it seems like the team is prioritizing making Rekkles feel comfortable and making sure that he gets in there.
Yeah, Caps is going to be like the playmaker for you. Rekkles is going to be the insurance, right? You saw Caps make
a great way to say it.
Caps making the flashy plays on Akali. He picked TF, roams across the whole map. He's soaking a lot of pressure while giving out a lot of pressure. That just gives loads of breathing room to Rekkles, right? He's not forced to make plays. You saw most of the fights, he was Jhin ulting from the back. The Sivir, he was scaling up. And in the late game fights, Caps take a step back, Rekkles takes a step forward. And that's how the kind of G2 competition works in general as players.
And of course, because of all of that, G2 go 3-0.
Yeah.
Debut week to start off the year. It is a very terrifying sign if this team is already starting at that level to think about where they will progress, not only through spring, but through the rest of the year.
That is a great point, and I think we all often get a bit blamed for like, why didn't you talk about this player? They all did well, but it is true that in the first week, all of these players had pop-off moments. I mean, Jankos had one of the best weeks in his career over the 3 games. Wunder was extremely solid as always. Mikyx was smurfing it at times. I mean, you can't dream of a better start.
No, you can't. And now with everything we've just said, with all the build-up we have, with all of the history and success of this team, they are now facing the former support, the former substitute, the former MSI champion in promisq.
True, honestly.
And obviously, Astralis are really up against it. This is not an easy game. This is one where they are the heavy underdogs. And I absolutely love promisq because he did an interview with Yinsu Collins for Sky Sports, and he was talking about how he wouldn't be surprised or he'd love if G2 could just first time 5 different champions against him. The reason I really like that is I think it's a little bit next level. It speaks a little bit to the organization of G2, to a little bit of the trolling nature they have. And promisq trying a little bit of psychological warfare, like trying to bait G2 in that decision. I would love if it happened. It's not going to, obviously, but it would be incredible.
Yeah, both teams have an MSI champion on the bot lane on either side, right?
True.
So it's an MSI champion versus an MSI champion in support roles. So that'll be interesting to see, and I think you're definitely right. I mean, G2 versus Astralis, I think it's going to be a decent game. I mean, G2 have looked a bit shaky here and there in some of the fights. I think that although their games are stomps in a way in terms of gold lead, in terms of stats, some of the fights were kind of close, and against XL, I think you saw a few weak points being hit there and here and there, but like I said, Rekkles, the late game insurance, showed up in that game really hard.
We'll see. It can go either way. I mean, the expectation is that Astralis are, of course, huge underdogs in this one. As we have a little bit of time and a bit of a delay getting to Champ Select, let's talk about Astralis as we see some of the smiling faces and Jankos just being like, oh my, it's getting worse every year with this team. So Astralis are 1-2 so far, and this was the team for me that has the lowest of expectations before. I think the fan sentiment didn't really work in their favor. But I like to look at it the other way and see, well, everything they can do now is go up from here.
Well, it can't get worse, can
No.
it? I actually think you were too polite.
I'm
when
trying
you
to be.
When you said there was no expectations, I think every single source, from journalist to shoutcaster to fan, was placing Astralis in 10th place. Now, they picked up that win last week, and I do agree with you. What that does mean is you're playing a little bit without pressure, without expectation. And especially in this game against G2. Now, whatever they can do is going to be surprising. Maya's going to be Zanzarah. He's the guy that I'm in love with. He's just so much personality, and we heard from him today earlier as well.
Yeah, we still have time. I think you guys think that I need to toss, but I don't.
Oh, yes,
I
okay.
don't.
There we go, yes.
Go ahead.
The thing that I was going to mention, just there's two things that I noticed for Astralis. The first thing is a weakness in what I see is they don't really have a carry, someone that you think that's like, oh, going to pop off, going to solo carry the game, give all him the resources. I think Zanzarah is more of like the distributing across the team. So that's kind of a weakness in itself, but I think they cover it up really well with their 2 team compositions on the weekend, where they just draft full team fight, full kind of AoE target damage, no single target, no hyper carry, just full team composition focus as a 5-player unit, rather than just kind of picking one player and saying, give him everything.
I think that's a great observation because in terms of the identity of this team, we are kind of guessing. But as you say, Zanzarah was known when he played on AJ or Rogue to be that facilitating jungler to set up his laners for success and maybe taking the brunt of all the damage in a team fight so they can shine. So we really need someone also to step up to do that.
Exactly.
Now, nukeduck was actually the backbone of the team. Last week, he had the best stats. He had a great performance or a good performance. So is that the guy we're looking at, or are we expecting a WhiteKnight or a Jeskla to be the people, to be or to be the people that Zanzarah can set up for, rather?
Yeah, I'm looking at Jeskla, to be honest.
Okay.
I think nukeduck is more of like the control mage, scaling kind of player, which is good. It's what you want from a mid. Yes, he can carry if it's more of an Azir meta, but currently in this meta, I'm thinking more playmaking, team-fighting mids. WhiteKnight historically is more of a team fighter, things like the cannon or even tanks, which we saw him on. So I'm looking at Jeskla now. It's a good AD carry meta. Get him something like the Kai'Sa, which he's been playing on the weekend. Try and give him as much resource as possible, give him lots of jungle attention, and hopefully Jeskla can be the star of his team.
And I'm going to go back just a moment or two as well when we're talking about the team trying to find their identity, trying to find, what they're going to be playing towards, who they're going to be playing towards. AOD said exactly that in his interview last week. Expressed a lot of faith and trust in the players developing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I read between the lines and that I am kind of projecting a little in how he spoke was that right now in their current form, no, they're definitely not in the top of the table contenders, and they need to grow, they need to develop. And these types of games are actually the most difficult because you're coming up against arguably the favorites in the entire freaking league, right? So that makes it a lot more challenging and in some ways a little bit more scary for Astralis to deal with.
Well, let's see what happens today. Astralis will try to end G2's run, so let's see if they can pull off the upset.
Hell of an upset.
He's on Fnatic.
Thank you very much, Sjokz, Caedrel, and Quickshot for that fantastic intro into this game. Obviously, big expectations on the shoulders of G2 to just continue their dominant run so far, but we're going to have to see what Astralis can do to potentially slow them down. I'm Drakos, this is Vedius, and we're here to talk about League of Legends.
So let's start by talking about how much Jankos sucks, right? Got your attention now, haven't I? Yeah, Analyst desk talking about how good all the G2 players were, and then I suddenly come in and, yeah. Jankos maybe not that good.
Do you want me to bail you out of this one, or are you riding this one down?
No.
Let me tell you guys, the most loved, often considered best jungler in the league, although I think, to be fair, there's some debate there. I'm going to just talk trash on him.
Yeah. Obviously, I am exaggerating. I just wanted to, I wanted that headline, to try and catch your attention. One of the things that we will be following in this game and talking a lot about is some of Jankos' early pathing, because Drakos and I have been looking a lot at like how the meta works, expectations for junglers, and something that we've been noticing a lot about Jankos is something that many of you G2 fans are already very familiar with, and that Jankos likes to play for his lanes. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with playing for your lanes, but in the current meta that is very jungle dominated, that can sometimes be very detrimental.
Yeah, he's a giver. He wants to give that attention. He was around as a jungler for, most of the metas where junglers were kind of just second supports, if we're completely honest. They just ganked for the lanes, they bailed their lanes out of bad lane states, and you can see the remnants of some of those habits, and I think we're going to track today how well Jankos does about, making this the Jankos show.
So we're going to be talking about that in 2, 1, after the music. That was our remix version. Hope you guys liked it.
What you guys didn't hear is producer goes, pretend it's normal. And Betty goes, that's the remix. Let's go. All right, it's Astralis versus G2. And we're going to see exactly how intense this game is going to be. promisq making some quick jokes about, hey, would love to see 5 first-time champions on stage. But I think for G2, maybe we see a little bit of experimentation. Maybe we see a little bit of fun. But so far, it feels like outside of some of the more chaotic picks, they have been taking these games very seriously.
And we're just waiting for draft to creep up. But yeah, we're on 11.2. We already saw some pretty cool stuff today with the Ivan being locked in the jungle. We also got to see a Mundo. Even managed to see a Pantheon make its way through the ban list, so that's always very cool. But what will shift up between these two teams? Thresh going to be taken off the board, and a Talia from the side of Astralis. So nothing too crazy early on.
And obviously the Olaf and the Aatrox taking big hits overall, but Talia remains one of the big top-tier junglers on this path. Was not hit at all in 11-2, so expect to continue to see her to dominate. Pantheon, another name on that list of untouched champions.
It's pretty interesting that here in Europe, we've also been seeing a huge presence of the Lucian. The Silas ban suggests that G2 right now is looking at an early Twisted Fate, and the Twisted Fate response is going to come out from Astralis. Now, typically G2 have not actually prioritized the Kai'Sa, but they could definitely do so if they wanted to, considered the strongest AD carry in the current meta. But with the Olaf up and available, it looks like G2 is saying that the nerfs were not significant enough to knock this champion off that S-tier pedestal, and they will look to lock that one in early on.
Important to note, if you haven't read the patch notes, it is just the healing, the lifesteal, and the additional healing bonuses on his W that were taken down a notch. The clear speed still incredibly quick, so it's still the same Olaf you know and love, just a little bit weaker. And Astralis have opted to respond with the Lillia alongside the Alistair. Love seeing an Alistair. The Lillia, though, has been, I feel like, kind of hit-miss in Europe so far.
Certainly has been, but still very strong clear speeds, can keep up with the Olaf. Early dueling, of course, not the strongest, but the great thing about Lillia is how easily she can kite away from champions like an Olaf. And when you have that great engage with the Alistair, feels like Astralis have already built this very strong foundation, and they can be very flexible with the rest of their drafts. G2 do still need some AP, and they're going to get themselves the Gragas. Now, remember that Gragas is a flex pick. We haven't actually seen it in the bot lane yet for Europe, but for those that don't know, Mikyx is a huge Gragas player. He loves this champion, and he considers it a pretty good pick into the Alistair, so we may very well see it in the bot lane for the first time, but we'll have to wait and see as the rest of the draft plays out.
Definitely something to keep our eyes on, of course, for G2 Esports, see how exactly they want to approach this game strategically on the opposite side for Astralis, and really for any of the teams that have been struggling in the LEC. Vedius, we talked a lot about looking at things, hoping that teams were going to keep it simple, keep it straightforward, keep for easy win conditions. Maybe not so much towards the 1-3-1, but as interesting as it's going to be to see how Astralis builds their composition, we do have a Senna now coming into the fold. We've heard rumors of the fasting Senna or the support Senna, honestly, depending on which of these two players want to play it. Both Rekkles and Mikyx have done their time on Senna duty. We're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much flexibility on the side of G2's draft right now because of where the Senna can go. Obviously, you expect it to be in the bot lane position, but where? Will it be support? Will it be AD carry? Will that Gragas be top lane? So Astralis, they're going to stay safe for now. They're going to lock in Samira, a pretty well-rounded AD carry, and I imagine that they believe that the Senna is AD, so, but they're going to be sure, and they're going to take off the Seraphine. So it is that Seraphine Senna bot lane that you already heard the analysts talking about at the beginning of the day. I think that it has been rising to prominence. I've been seeing it a lot in solo queue, and I think that it is a very strong duo. So no surprise to see that one removed. The question is, will Astralis look to ban something like the Kai'Sa away if they're afraid of that? Or will instead they focus on removing a potential few other support options? The problem is, again, G2's comp is so flexible, it's very difficult to know for sure where exactly every champion is going.
And as an outsider looking in without perfect data on what's being scrimmed, there have been so many different Senna pairings over the history, right? Sometimes it was just a traditional support with bigger, we had Wukong, we had just things like Tom Kench, but with a Sunfire cape instead of his normal build path. So how they choose to use what could be this additional source of income in the form of whatever champion they want to pair the Senna with is a big question. That said, Renekton now banned away as well. I'm going to assume that one's a scrim special and or potentially respecting the Gragas flex pick here, something that you brought up earlier, Vedius, which with the Senna could be a very menacing duo.
What's interesting here is the Camille and Aatrox are both very good picks into Gragas, which does suggest that this Gragas is looking like a top lane pick for the time being. But perhaps it's just to throw Astralis off the scent. It's difficult to predict when it comes to G2. The Orianna, again, Astralis composition, very well-rounded, very strong team fighting. Like, again, it's it's very meta, very conventional. Right now, they just need some kind of, well, they can kind of go wherever they want with the top lane pick. They have AD with the Samira, a little bit more AD. You don't really want another AP champion up towards top lane, but Gragas is usually the only one that you see up there. But with so many banned away, I'm curious as to what direction they actually take that top lane. We've seen a couple of volley bears, but I'm not sure if you necessarily want to lock that in into something like a Gragas, because we now know that that Gragas will be up in the top lane with the Leona coming in for Mikyx. Question is, how will G2 round out their draft? Knowing Caps, he wants something that can impact the side lane, something that he can carry on, something that he can look to roam around the map on, so something he can get a little bit of pressure on early. I don't think we're going to see a stand made from him, but it's difficult to predict what that pick necessarily is. And it looks like he's going to go for the Ekko. So that kind of fits our expectations in terms of how Caps likes to play. Very strong in the side lane, can easily roam around the map early on, and can definitely look to impact everywhere.
And now, of course, the final pick to come in for the side of Astralis is going to be that Gnar in the top lane, another champion that is flexible, although not always in a perfect way. Sometimes you need the Mega Gnar and it's not there. Sometimes you need the Mini and it's not there as well. So we'll see how well Astralis can make that work. The thing that stands out to me, Vedius, while we talk about Astralis, pretty well-rounded in damage profile now too. There is just so many engage tools on the side of G2 Esports, between the Leona, the Senna, the Olaf, the Ekko as follow-up engage. The Olaf now going to be able to ignore that Alistair, one of the few sources of undeniable frontline on the side of Astralis. So Astralis going to need to play a much cleaner game than from what we saw in week 1.
Well, I think one of the things that Astralis can leverage is some of the early prio. I think their bot lane should be good in the 2 versus 2. I think mid should have an advantage as well. And it's all about how well can they use some of that early pressure against G2 Esports. It's definitely going to be important because G2 is a team that they can try and take advantage of in the early game. Let's see how they can do as we jump into G2 versus Astralis.
And here we are, G2 versus Astralis, as we get into game before the jungle pathing really kicks off. And as it appears, we have no level 1 skirmishes. Important to point out, while we've heard rumors of the fasting Senna, or basically AD carries playing support Senna, was really what it comes down to. Rekkles has started for the Dorans. He will not be getting a support item, so gold will be going into the hands of Rekkles. Does not fully utilize the patch changes on 11.2, though there were many, but should still be quite effective overall.
Yeah, I think that Senna is still, as far as champions go, a good one, right? She is a champion that can be very obnoxious in lane. I think that she scales extremely well. And I think that she's a champion that Rekkles has a lot of comfort on as well. When we think back to Fnatic, just in last summer, it was one of his go-to champions. If it was open, he would lock it in. Now, do I think that Senna Leona is the strongest 2v2 lane? No. I think that Alistair, especially when paired up with a Samira, has so much presence in this 2 versus 2 that they should be able to look for skirmishes. But you can see G2 looking to get a little bit sneaky here as they get early brush control. And as we kind of expect, and what we've been seeing a lot recently, Drakos, is junglers not getting that pull because of how valuable it is to get into lane early.
Yeah, now it's going to mean that Jankos is instantly speeding through his clear. We see Zanzarah instantly moving up on Krugs as well, straight from Raptors, looking for that double respawn as soon as possible. So high-paced jungle clearing is on the menu, Vedius, and it's something that you talked about for Jankos. We'll see if he's going to play a more selfish role or if he's going to try to support some of his lanes early on, as Caps, kind of as to be expected here, suffering a little bit in the early matchup. nukeduck making good use of that level 2 to start adding some pressure.
So we missed it, but nukeduck, I imagine he got a ward kill somewhere, because a ward was definitely placed by Jankos, and I don't see it on the minimap, so I assume it was cleared out by the sweeper from Zanzarah, and that XP was then handed over to nukeduck, which then gave him level 2 on the first clear. So Caps went for a very fast push early on, but the wave then froze underneath the tower, and then Caps ended up in a situation which was just really awkward for him. So he ends up taking a pretty nasty trade. Notice that all of his pots have now been expended. So this 1v1 matchup, he may be forced to use his teleport very early, all because of a ward kill that came off the back of nukeduck, giving him that early level advantage. So great stuff here from nukeduck, and already some of those small advantages start being built up in the lane. Oh, we're going to get a replay of it from our observers. Thank you very much, observers. So there was that ward kill. This is ultimately what gave him the level 2 in lane, and what is now making life very difficult for Caps in the 1 versus 1.
Yeah, definitely do not want to fall behind as Ekko in that lane phase. Once he gets a reset, it'll be okay, but that teleport disadvantage could cost him dearly, especially if it means that nukeduck gets to make a few more plays in the side lane. For now, though, just farming up under tower, surviving as best he can. Keeping an eye, though, on how this mid lane pressure is going to be utilized. For now, not very well, as Jankos is already barreling into the mid lane, trying to reset this for Caps.
So this is, oh, that's a lot of damage coming out from Jankos, but this is exactly what we were talking about, Drakos. Now, Jankos made the decision here to say, you know what, Caps, I will come and I will help you. He didn't prioritize any of the scuttle crabs. He's now even resetting. He's not even going to take the top scuttle. Instead, he is sacrificing his own farm. Okay, nice. He is going to go and get the top. What are you doing, Jankos? Okay, he's going to grab the raptors. He's going back and forth because I imagine that he wasn't expecting them to spawn when they did. But you can see that he was in 2 minds. But regardless, the point is that he played for his team there. And this is very Jankos, right? Sometimes it is at the detriment to himself because he could be just snowballing further ahead. He could be focusing on getting that earlier reset, making sure he gets those camps. Now, ultimately, this is to his benefit because he will steal away those raptor camps. He will still get the scuttle crab, and Zanzarah is now going to be a little bit behind in those camps. But it's one of those things you have to be cautious of because sometimes it can be something that actually puts G2 behind in the early game. And when we look back to week 1, he was actually punished a couple times. He lost his flash, he fell behind in jungle XP, and something that many teams have been able to punish, especially during Worlds.
But all things considered, it ended up being the right decision. We saw for a moment he considered the recall. Very good for him that he didn't, that he was able to grab Raptors, now into the scuttle, now into a full topside clear. He is very much on pace with Zanzarah, not giving up a lot to reset that for mid lane. But Wunder could be in trouble, very low mana. Early body slam comes out. Now there's no level 6 here for Zanzarah. Would take a lot to commit for the dive. Wunder trying to sidestep. Third stack not going to be there, but there's first blood coming through. Gnar going to get it.
And a great gank from Zanzarah overall. I like that. You know, he was on the top side of the map. There were no camps to clear. He decided to help out his top laner, and Wunder just held on to the flash for too long. I think he realized a little too late how much damage he was taking, and he ends up getting punished for it. So Astralis off to a great early game here. I liked what we saw from nukeduck in the 1 versus 1, and already a great gank from Zanzarah.
And as much as we talk about Jankos, I think it's important to highlight Zanzarah as well. A very unique player overall. We saw in week 1 that he was one of the players who was not afraid to go into the enemy jungle, who did, despite the struggles of Astralis, have some pretty solid early games.
He certainly did. I liked his awareness on the map, and from what I've been told, Zanzarah is a very vocal player, and I like what Caedrel said on the Analyst desk as well. He's someone that likes to play for the team. He's a very resource-focused jungler that wants to try and enable his laners as much as possible, and I think that he does a pretty good job of doing that. You know, you can already see that he likes to get in the face of the enemy jungle with the counter jungle percentage being much higher than the average. He really likes to get into the face, and he really likes to get involved and do things in the early game.
Yeah, generally it seems like early game when it's come that he's been good at tracking enemy pathing. He's been good at getting all the advantages that he can. We'll see if this holds up for mid game though. That's been the big question for Astralis, where we've seen some of these fumbles. Jankos is now going to connect this Raptor respawn. Cap's now leaping in, very aggressive here. Gonna have to immediately ult out, but it does mean that nukeduck cannot come to stop Jankos from contesting these Raptors.
Exactly that. Jankos is very aware that nukeduck has no mana, and this is kind of where the laners then pay it back to Jankos. So while he is very lane focused, he also knows that if he puts his laners in a good position, they can then help support him. So Caps is just like, I'm trading everything I can to make sure that nukeduck cannot leave. And in solo queue, you'd be getting spam pings onto nukeduck, like, why aren't you coming, why aren't you coming? But obviously he can't, because he can't offer anything in that situation. It's a lose-lose situation regardless of what he does, which then ultimately gives Jankos that small advantage. He then quickly rotates down towards the Drake. The support is there to help him out as well, and G2 slowly getting a little bit more control of him.
But of course, G2 spotted across a lot of vision doing this, so it does give permission for Zanzarah to move in and take 1 or potentially 2 camps. So while Mountain Drake, you would definitely say, is the bigger win, individually Zanzarah could come out on top in terms of actual gold and XP value.
And I think this just highlights how aware Zanzarah is of the map state, because he recognizes, oh, okay, Jankos on bot side, let's see if I can trade something on the top side. I'm going to steal away all of his top side camps. Top is also pushing, so we could even consider a dive. But now the Astralis bot lane recognizes we do not have our jungler on our side of the map. Drake has just been killed, and we had that control ward to spot them walking in, so this is way too dangerous for us. We're just going to have to accept that we're going to lose these resources.
That said, it does buy more time for Lillia. Sadly, the trade is steadily getting worse for Astralis as more and more of these power plays are taken. And I think at this point, Jankos doesn't know that that ward was in the brush. He walked right past it, and of course they did sweep the tri-brush there, so sadly is going to lose out on a lot, but Lillia going to clear 3 camps on the top side. In the meantime, Zanzarah is going to be feeling pretty comfortable, and ultimately 2 tower plates, a bit of gold denied from the side of Astralis. Hard to say if that's actually worth it for what Jankos has to give up.
So Zanzarah, he is a little bit ahead of the play right now, and you can see he's slightly up in gold as well. Part of that is because of the early kill that he was able to grab, but because he was able to steal all those topside camps and he's able to reset, he's now back on the map before Jankos is. So while Jankos is clearing his red, he still needs to go back to base. Meanwhile, Zanzarah now has an opportunity to actually do something on the map. The question is, where will he do it? Wunder doesn't have flash at the moment, so he could look for a play up towards the top lane and try and get WhiteKnight even further ahead. He could also work with promisq to maybe set up some invades, maybe even look to challenge Jankos in the enemy jungle. Right now, it seems that his focus is on the Rift Tower. Oh no, they have found Wunder.
Wunder gonna fish for the body slam over the wall. WhiteKnight just gonna get knocked back. Good news for Wunder that he's able to get out of that one. Ultimate is available for Zanzarah, so it looks like they're trying to fish for the uncontested Herald here. We got 5 members of Astralis in the area. Rekkles currently looks like freezing in the bottom lane, so very good read on the map state from Astralis.
Exactly. Now, let's have a quick look at Rekkles and see what he's doing with his minion wave right now. So, I don't think this is quite frozen, but he's holding the wave here. He's not, actually, he's kind of hard shoving it because he wants to try and punish the positioning of Jeskla. Of course, everyone has just rotated up, right? And he knows that, that wave isn't going to stay where it is. So just clear as fast as possible so that you can push this wave in and then look for a reset yourself.
And one of the things that we have to remember that was for so long a weakness of Senna and why we did see teams in playoffs last season opt to go for things as crazy as a lane swap in this meta was because of her slow pushing speed. But that said, now looking for an opportunity, looking for the stun here. Cap's potentially in trouble. That's going to be a 2-man shockwave. Clean start. That's going to be double drowsy coming down. Astralis getting everything in this fight, but Jankos going to try to buy some space back. Unstoppable shield coming over. Nukeduck flashes to safety. Flash in from Jankos. Now chasing down Zanzarah. Oh no, run Bambi, run. promisq though. Maybe fishing for a little bit of support. 1v1. Who is the better MSI champion? For today, it looks like Mikyx got more backup, so things are going to work out in his favor as promisq runs for the hills.
Good sidestep from promisq. I think he's going to be able to get out from this one. I think it's a little greedy for G2 to over-chase here as well, but there is this minion wave that Rekkles can look to grab. Is Jankos still going to chase this?
Very squishy.
No, they're going to give up. All right, so promisq does get away with his life. But I was going to comment before that fight happened, is just like, wow, what a cool, like, high-level game that we're getting. Because it's just a lot of trading. You know, one team does one thing, and then they respond on the other side of the map, you know, using their tempo effectively and just constantly trying to trade these smaller objectives. But G2 do what G2 often does, which is like, hey, I think we can fight here, right? They know that Rekkles is in a position to be able to quickly rotate up. And notice the minion waves in the bot lane as well. That's so much farm and XP that's being lost to the tower. So even if these kills end up trading even, it's not actually an even trade for Astralis because the AD carry ends up dying. He loses so much additional farm off the back of that, and on top of that, G2 get a bunch of additional kills, so this loss for Astralis is actually much more than simply giving those kills over to G2.
And this is one of those fights where maybe if we saw more fallout from Jeskla, maybe if he's able to get an S-style rank, you know, you saw the shockwave into the double drowsy, like maybe that is a fight with just a little bit more that Astralis can come out on top on, but close is not good enough for Astralis right now, so at the end of the day, it does mean gold pretty much dead even. They are going to lose a little bit on the bottom side, and I think for Astralis, we have to see how much cleaner their execution can get this week, because there were so many just little mistakes across the board from this Astralis lineup that led them to really struggling through every one of their games.
Yeah, it certainly did. And unfortunately for Astralis, while the gold is very even, if we could swap over to the gold very quickly, observers, just have a look at the difference between the two AD carries, because it is quite significant. There is a 1k gold gap. There is a whole level disadvantage. And while Rekkles has just been chilling in bot lane, Jeskla has been trying to play with his team, help him secure some of these objectives. And of course, he was one of the players that died in that last fight. So Rekkles, very early on, already has the Kraken Slayer. And for those that don't know, one of the buffs was that now Q will apply 1 stack from the Kraken Slayer as well, which is why you're seeing it a little bit more often on Senna as a champion. And G2, they're just upping the tempo of this game, playing for all these plates, trying to funnel as much gold into Rekkles as possible. And now, with that mid-prio, they can quickly rotate down to the Drake, and they can look for another fight.
See what they can get done here. Important to know this is going to be a very difficult game for Jeskla as we see WhiteKnight coming down. Will not be able to block Senna auto attacks with his mobile wind wall.
I like how Astralis used their priority bot to actually get control of the river. Now they have a pretty good collapse onto G2.
Pull back. WhiteKnight stunned up. Gnar's going to be a big deal here, though, but he's going to leap back out to safety. Snare almost connects. Zanzarah goes golden, but there's no one here for the follow-up. Jeskla off to the side. Trying to stack up. promisq goes in, but it's scattered from Astralis. Wunder, though, coming in high. promisq now trying to make his way out to safety. The ultimate slowly but surely going to fade away. He's burning. He's ticking. He's down. Caps now on the hunt. WhiteKnight has to run. Oh, the worst time to turn mini, but just enough movement speed to make it out to safety. And nukeduck completely out of mana. This is bad news for Astralis.
Oh, it certainly is. And G2 are not done yet. They're looking for the dive.
Cap's going to get the shield first. Has the reset on his ulti up and available. Can tank a few shots. Rekkles coming in to follow, but now he's the one tanking the auto. The flash over the wall. The Q, the follow-up. One more to do it. The Kraken Slayer coming in clutch. WhiteKnight getting shut down from downtown, and Rekkles making his mark on that fight.
Wow, and G2 are just ballooning this game out of control. They're going to get the Drake, they're going to get a bunch of kills, and Astralis are just being ripped apart. Their positioning looked good, and the fight continues.
Wunder going forward, he's going to be sleepy. He should go down here. Caps maybe could try to turn this one around, but with the Ignite ticking and with Wunder not quite able to make it over the wall, he will drop in the end.
So at the very least, Astralis will get something back, but let's see where things go wrong. So I think this position is actually pretty good. You can see WhiteKnight's about to get his ultimate off, but the shockwave only goes on to Mikyx. He just soaks that one up. Meanwhile, Olaf is like, you know what? I have 2 kills. I can just straight up 1v1 Zanzarah, and kind of G2 split up the fight. They attacked the 2 flanks from each perspective, and Astralis couldn't find the setup that they were looking for. The Alistair wasn't in a position to get the knockup. WhiteKnight never landed a good ultimate. And that meant that G2 could just kind of pick what targets they want and slowly pick apart this Astralis squad. And
I think this is something that makes G2, one of the things that makes G2 such a good team is that they're so good at respecting enemy cooldowns. They did not put themselves in a position to get really collapsed on there to let the kind of wombo combo from Astralis really punish them. Although, as we say that, Caps could be in trouble here.
Oh, promisq. I thought he didn't have his Hex Flash up. I wonder if, I wasn't keeping track of his flash, but I wonder if it just came up now. Now Mikyx's here to assist.
Walking forward. Still a man advantage, though. Mikyx going to be in trouble here, but WhiteKnight also in trouble on the bottom side. That is an unstoppable Olaf. Leaps to safety, the axe! And Jankos now on a rampage. Meanwhile, on the top side, Mikyx will also drop.
Whew, very skirmish-heavy game. 14 minutes in, we're already at 11 kills. Ends up being 1-for-1 overall. The trade of Mikyx for WhiteKnight, though, probably slightly more favorable for G2. Something that Caps now has to be cautious of, though, is with the amount of control that Astralis has over the top side of the map. That tower isn't as safe as he thinks, and Rekkles needs to be a little careful. But that's also the advantage. Caps in the jungle has a little bit more information.
Caps going to push forward just a little bit there. Zanzarah now has to run. It's going to be sleepies, and that's a little greedy, I feel like, to go back in for the extra damage, because here comes the TP. Wunder now on the way in. No flash available. Body slam could come through, but just enough from the phase rush. Rekkles now coming in as well. Remember, his auto attacks are going to slow here. That's the cue now. Nukeduck getting knocked back. I don't think they have enough damage to kill him. Oh, Nukeduck not where you needed to be. A clean collapse from G2.
Rekkles already just does so much damage on this Senna. Has been involved in 8 of the 9 kills. And G2 continues to funnel gold into him. So this is Zanzarah saying, the top map belongs to us, Caps. And Caps is like, does it though? Does it really? And so he forces the ultimate out from Zanzarah, and this is where the flank TP comes in. Astralis, for all intents and purposes, the top side should belong to them. They know where G2 is, but then this collapse comes through. Rekkles collapsing in through the mid lane. 1 versus 4 effectively at this point. Gets a kill, gets the heal out from where as well, and then Wunder comes from over the wall to get the knockback. Just quick response here from G2, and again, it's one of those things that they often do, like, typically, in many games, you would just see, okay, top side of the map belongs to Team A, bot side of the map belongs to Team B. But players from G2 will actually test that, and they'll push that, and they'll say, okay, you believe that you have control, but how much control do you actually have? Because it looks like that, for the time being, that control does not belong to you.
I appreciate the bated breath in the setup, and I think it's interesting to see how confident the G2 are moving, how confident they're playing as a team, and definitely how confident Caps is, as he's going to get pulled back there. But the member that everyone's always going to be ready to talk about, at least for these first few weeks, at least until it becomes the new normal, is going to be Rekkles on this team, and kind of the attention that he gets, the setup that he's been getting. How is his team? Never mind. G2 are killing people. Yeah, Rekkles is great. Jankos is also killing people. He heard you talking smack, Vedius. He's not interested. He wants literally none of it. But important to note that Rekkles in these first few weeks has been getting a lot of attention. He has been getting a lot of resources, and it's hard to say if this is a stylistic shift for G2 or if this is just a result of the style of games that they did play, but it is something we'll keep our eyes on. Just like this fight where Jeskla's getting absolutely bombed. He's trying to spin. Rekkles now going to be in trouble. Big shield coming in, but he manages to get one, trying to reset through, but there's not enough space for him to make it to safety. Mikyx now has to run for his life. WhiteKnight chasing Gnar on the way, but that is a Rift Herald on the top side of the map. Astralis, you're getting kills, but at what cost? It's going to be at least another tower taken down by the Herald. Maybe another charge to follow. nukeduck going to try his best to deny it.
Listen, Drakos, all that matters is that the KDA's king has been crushed. He has now been cut in half as a result of another death, and it is Astralis that will deliver that lethal blow. Yes, they do end up losing that tier 2 in the top lane, but getting a couple kills, getting a couple of crucial shutdowns will at the very least funnel a little bit more gold back into the pockets of Astralis. That, of course, isn't going to close that 4K gold gap that still exists right now. But I do like what they're doing. They're primarily just grouping up, and they're trying to use their numbers to find as many favorable fights as possible. Jeskla just barely able to survive long enough to help get with those kills, but then G2 trades it back and then realizes, okay, Mickey, there's not much we can do for you here, and they move him to the wolves.
And I really like the flank we saw from promisq there. There was a ton of attempts at those kind of flanks last week that just did not work out. With the set, you think the Hex Flash, and that just was not coming together for this Astralis lineup. So to see it, even if maybe the cost was a bit too high, is a sign of positive progress for the team. That said, I do want to talk about the builds, because I think this Rekkles build is dope. Because I knew Kraken Slayer was good, but I never thought about Rageblade. But because Senna gets crit chance from her souls, you're maxing out that Rageblade damage so much faster than any other character. And while normally attack speed on Senna, it felt bad all last year, it seems pretty good.
Math. That's what I'm going to trust, man. I mean, yeah, I just kind of, I look at the damage graph and I see Rekkles is top and I'm like, I'm going to assume this is good.
Yeah, that's tough though. Yeah. Sometimes pro players build random crap and then you're like,
True.
this must be good. And then you try it so again and you're like, wait, both these items say lifeline on them. They don't work together, do they?
Oh yeah, we've all been there. Of course, that's not happening this game as promisq looking for a flank. This could be a big one.
Double Sleep going to come through. Caps has the ulti to reset the fight if they can one-tap him, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen now. A bit more space bought by Wunder, but they're going to settle for the top lane kill. Caps trying to keep the fight going, fishing for at least one stun. Zanzarah going golden, but a beautiful ult on the backside from Mikyx. Meanwhile, though, Rekkles just getting popped. That Gnar doing work. WhiteKnight making some space for the rest of the team. Zanzarah, hopping, skipping, jumping, but still not able to make it out. A scrappy fight, but so far just a 2-for-2 as nukeduck has to run from Leona.
Yeah, and I think that Leona loses this until Caps arrives.
Dash.
Oh, there's the phase rush proc.
Waiting for it. nukeduck running out of mana here, though.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the damage to turn this.
Oh no, he thought maybe I could get the mana, but no, there's an Olaf there. That's gonna do it. No kills back.
And I will say, at the beginning of this game, I prefaced with my clickbait title that said, Jankos sucks. Now, I acknowledge that the data doesn't necessarily support that statement, and, you know, I will acknowledge, you know, that this game he has been playing super, super well. And he wasn't punished for playing towards his laners, and he actually ended up getting a lot of benefit. But you can see how in this fight, he just kind of runs through the opposition. He is so strong on this Olaf, even after the nerfs. He just kind of chases down the opposition, and this is one of those fights where, again, it looked very promising for Astralis, but unfortunately for them, the gold gap is quite big, and the composition from G2 when they get into a choke point like that, Rekkles is able to stay pretty safe on the backline. Of course, he did end up dying in that fight as well. His KDA is being obliterated right now.
It's absolutely just being destroyed.
But he's playing for the team, you know? He is playing for the team, and he's able to dish out that damage. And as you rightly said, the synergy with this Rageblade and the Kraken Slayer doing a lot of damage. Mickey now caught out once again.
But look at that damage just coming in immediately on a promisq. Of course, no Aftershock, so is just in general much more squishy. Also hasn't finished his first item, but that said, Rekkles hitting like a truck at this stage of the game. Not good for Astralis. But we'll see. Last two fights, Rekkles has been picked off pretty quickly. He is very squishy, very vulnerable. Has to play this out from a positioning perspective pretty flawlessly not to get caught out by this composition.
I think at this point, it's very difficult for G2 to get caught out with how strong they are. It's actually Astralis getting caught out.
Yep, Shockwave gonna come in, but too little too late now. Rekkles on the backside, providing as much support as he can. As Jankos tries to barrel through, but will be shut down.
Nerfed healing?
Nerfed healing.
That will, of course, be Jankos' first death of the game, but Caps now coming in from the flank.
Get knocked back, no stun there. promisq kind of just buying space, though, for the rest of the team. He has phase rush. He should be able to walk away from this one. Cap's gonna be happy with half his health as a trade. For G2, very much still dictating the pace of this game, but Astralis, you know, matching blow for blow in a lot of these skirmishes, even if they are steadily falling behind in gold, it is a 4K difference. As the test on the red will not go in the favor of G2. Zanzarah are going to smite them.
I know that the gold, like, from many positions, we'd be talking about how this 4K gap is, like, pretty big, but not... It's not impossible to come back from, right? But the problem is that I think that this isn't really representative of how big the gap is between the two teams. The fact that Rekkles is as strong as he is and has the level advantage that he has, the fact that no one can stop Caps in a side lane. Like, no one can match him. Like, maybe you can send WhiteKnight up against him and he can hold, but the fact that Caps can always push in this wave, roam into enemy jungle, move into Fog of War, and just kind of make things difficult, harder for Astralis to play around their side of the map, is just something that they have no real answer to. So this composition from G2, the fact that it isn't ahead, makes it very difficult for Astralis to set up for these objectives, get these clean 5v5s that they're looking for, and overall they just kind of keep getting picked apart. And as we saw in their half of the jungle, there was that one fight that looked quite promising for them, but they're kind of so far behind at this point. Even if they find that initial start, it's very difficult to close out in the same way.
And part of that is because Jeskla's so far behind. So we now see him caught out, and he should get taken down here. Rekkles not going to walk forward, though. The dash back out to save you from Jeskla will keep him alive, so overall, good that he survives. Doesn't burn any sums either, and does get Wunder's flash. Maybe Astralis feeling comfortable enough to try to turn this one around. That's going to be the three-man sleep. Zanzarah goes golden. Here comes promisq, looking for the follow-up. WhiteKnight going to go make on the backside, but is it enough? Or is it too little, too late? Jankos barreling through the team. promisq running for the hills, but his Caps on the backside. Jeskla trying to do what he can. Caps with the snapback. nukeduck buying as much space, but it's a split fight. The three-man core of Astralis running for the hills as nukeduck goes down in the mid lane, and still G2 coming out on top. Now, Wunder on the hunt. Hurting Astralis down. Rekkles looking for the follow-up. Mikyx coming in as well. It looks like they will back off instead, setting their sights on Soul. Yep. The dragon has respawned.
And this is the thing, G2, they just wanted to try and force the fight as the Drake was spawning. Astralis never really got to do that little dragon dance where they could set up around the river, try and get control over some of their side waves. Instead, they just got it engaged on in the mid lane, and Jeskla was forced out almost immediately. And yeah, things just kind of got very awkward for Astralis very, very quickly. And G2 were able to find another very promising fight. So now with the Ocean Soul, it's kind of just a matter of time until Astralis end up falling apart from this game. And like, while I think that this game is pretty much locked in stone for G2, I think it's really worth highlighting how well I think Zanzarah moved around the map in the early game. I really liked what we saw from him and how he was making smart cross-map plays. He was using his tempo well to secure objectives, and I think it just goes to show like how aware he is as a jungler. Unfortunately for him, when he was on the top side and when he was making these plays, G2 then took it to the next level, right? Every time Zanzarah made a play, G2 were also doing the same thing, and it felt like while Zanzarah was isolated in his plays, Jankos always had a Mikyx behind him, or Jankos always had a Caps behind him. So there was all these group efforts that were really shutting down Astralis' carries from ever really having an impact. And now they're kind of at this deficit, and Astralis, the best thing they can hope for is for G2 to make a throw at Baron. Maybe they can find a good pick onto Caps in a side lane. Maybe they can catch G2 out of position, but overall you're kind of relying on G2's mistakes at this point.
Caps is going to get a huge chunk of damage down. And of course there's a Moonstone Renewer there, but still going to take a little bit to heal up as the rest of G2. Now pushing forward, using the mist, the extra movement speed. Chem Tank Ben activated the extra movement speed. Zanzarah getting split from the rest of the team. nukeduck isolated. Jankos just going to one-shot him. Oh, Olaf still looks pretty good on this patch. And in the battle of the balanced, it looks like Olaf and Samira will just walk away from each other. They know when they've met their matches. Rekkles going to shred through promisq, and WhiteKnight going to try to retreat here as Jankos starting to push in, but Astralis going to come out shortly. Two more abilities. Now he can spin. Jankos going to be in trouble. That is definitely not what you want to do. Caps, though, still posturing like he wants a fight. We'll have to settle for the inhibitor.
Yeah, I think that for now, G2 is still pretty happy with how that fight played out. You can definitely see that they are testing their limits somewhat as they chase Astralis into their own half of the base. 2 versus 2 right now. I think that Astralis are definitely in the advantage here.
Oh, now the chase coming through. That's the dash going to be reused to kill Will.
Just look at the Ocean Soul.
He's healing so much. They just need one more stack, get that extra movement speed. Jeskla hunting. But here comes Mikyx. Oh, the turn and burn. I don't think that wind wall is going to save him, but the lifesteal will.
They don't have the damage. It's Tank, Gragas, and Leona.
The lockup, the follow-up. They're fishing the barrel. No, Jeskla dashes out to safety. Now Mikyx's given his life for basically nothing. Baron is up and available, but Astralis have the man advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Mikyx was, you know, running it down a little bit there. I think we could say that with confidence.
Is there any way that we could highlight exactly how you feel about that play?
Oh, I mean, there's definitely, yeah, but there will be, trust me. So as this replay plays out, we can see that Caps finds a nice stun there. He gets a bit of damage down onto Zanzarah, and G2's like, play for Baron? No. Play for kills? Yes. So they dive onto the backline, and Jankos pops his ultimate immediately, and he just rips through the backline. Decides not to overcommit to Jeskla because of how mobile the champion is, and instead joins up with the rest of his team. When we get a bit of a fast forward, we'll get to see all the way. I kind of want to go to the Mikyx death observers. So like we can get past all this, you know, a bit of blah, 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 you know. There it is. And now we get to see Mikyx here with Wunder. So he's like, okay, I can actually support my top laner here, right? And then it's at this point that Wunder realizes, you know what? No, it's not worth it. This play, this isn't it. I need to get out of here immediately and disengage from the fight. So they're going to back off of that one. And then they're going to reset and look to go for the Baron.
There you go. Mikyx running a little bit. G2 taking some risks that they didn't necessarily need to. But Astralis now looking to contest. Zanzarah has Flash and Smite available. Potentially risky as Mikyx hex flashes over the wall. Body block there is big. Zanzarah now walking towards the pit. 3K remaining. Wunder trying to split the rest of the team. Rekkles gets a good ult across the side, but there's WhiteKnight in the midst of everybody. Cap snapping back on the flank. Jeskla trying to find an opportunity to deal some damage. If he can get in with that ultimate, he can heal. But there's nukeduck over the wall. Maybe they can get it. Maybe they can do it. They get it! Astralis, they steal the Baron. Jankos trying to move his way through the rest of the team. Astralis now on retreat. Caps on the flank, trying to herd them back, trying to stop them from utilizing this Baron, but promisq to buy a bit more space. But now it's Caps in trouble. Astralis for now, they've won the day. If they keep this fight going, they will surely come out on top. That's Caps down as well. They steal the Baron, they get out alive, and now they want a little bit more. WhiteKnight starting to chase. That's going to be 3 on the Hyperproc. Stridebreaker used. Chasing, but he's tired. He can't stack that rage quite yet, so he's going to have to back off. I never thought I would say he's tired as a legitimate play-by-play call, but I guess that's just what it is.
Wow, okay, well, this was exactly what Astralis were looking for. Now, if they can look to contest the Elder Drake as well, then there's a real chance that they can come back into this game. I think that G2, they got a little bit too loose. They made a couple of too many poor plays, and like, you just look at this Baron setup, like, it's just poor, ultimately. They don't have control of the mid, they don't have proper deep vision. Caps is kind of coming in from the flank, but the engage from Wunder doesn't land on the Jeskla. Then the immediate exhaust down onto Caps zones him away as well. And then you realize, okay, well, Jankos is solo on the Baron now, but the combo of nukeduck and Zanzarah, no one or nothing is stopping these two from getting into the pit. And that combo, like, the smite wasn't even used, just... Well, it was used from the Olaf, but it didn't come out in time, and nukeduck was able to secure it with the shockwave, so they walk away with the Baron. They get the kill onto Caps as well, and that gold goes onto the back pockets of Jeskla, which means that Astralis now in a much better position. They're going to have so much more gold in their back pocket. You can see 2 items fully completed. Problem is, you then look at Rekkles, and you're like, that's 4 items and a QSS. Yeah. So it's definitely not going to be easy, but Astralis looking for another pick.
Nap on to Mikyx, trying to pick for the support. promisq now don't get the dunk on Rekkles, but the cleanse out. Running the safety, QSS taking him out, Mikyx alive as well, but big damage coming in.
So you can clearly see that Astralis' game plan here is just group fight, group fight, group fight. And they're trying to take advantage of the fact that G2 is split across the map right now. Of course, the real risk of this is that Caps is slowly setting up that wave in the top lane. The Elder Drake is spawning soon. And it's a matter of, can G2 buy enough time for Caps down on the back line, and what's Jankos going to do?
Trying to get some work done. nukeduck has to flash, but no, Jankos is still going to take him down. Olaf just does not care about any of this. Jankos going to get knocked back, though. That's going to be the 2-man. Jeskla now pushing for the follow-up. Spin, spin, spin. Samira on the way forward, but still, Caps, Wunder stepping in. Rekkles off to the side. Remember, 4-item 80 carry. It might be a Senna, but she's still going to hurt. Jeskla healing up, but he can be stopped in the end. The spin will be denied, and WhiteKnight has to retreat. Stridebreaker, blast cone out to safety. He's going to walk away, but G2, they've won the fight. They'll probably take the Elder, and they are set to take the game.
Whew, wow, that looked like a really good fight initially for Astralis, especially with the fact that Rekkles had no summoners, but no one was on Rekkles. He was just freely sitting in the back line. He wasn't taking any real threat, and G2 just come out ahead on top of another huge team fight. They definitely kept this game exciting. Drakos, they definitely got a little bit loose with it, but you know, even though they lost the Baron, Jankos was just like, yeah, I don't care. 1 versus 3, just runs nukeduck down. Even after the flash, there's nothing he can do, and like single-handedly, Jankos is just winning that team fight. And props to Jankos here. You know, again, we highlighted at the beginning of the game that in the early games, sometimes Jankos can lead to some of these early game deficits, but you got to credit the man in these team fights. He has so much confidence in these plays. He knows the strength of his champions, and he has been running away with the game for G2 pretty much from start to finish.
Yeah, and this is just one of those situations where it's not clear what nukeduck was planning there. Maybe he was thinking, hey, I get this sneaky 3-man shockwave. It instantly sets us up to win a fight, but whatever he thought would happen, the price of walking into melee range of an Olaf is death. Like, let's be honest, you're trading death for that opportunity. So maybe it didn't work out in his favor. Most certainly didn't, rather. And now we'll see what G2 can do to close this one out. Not super aggressively trying to push in here, respecting Astralis a lot, actually. So maybe we do get another fight. Maybe we do get another Baron.
And we have the Elder. I think the G2, though, is going to look to try and end it now. Caps is going to move to the bot lane. He doesn't have TP, so this could be a small window that Astralis look to use while they have the numbers advantage, especially with no Baron. But the thing, of course, that they are very scared of, he's just standing on that ward. And he's saying, do you want to come clear this? No? Okay. The spamming of emotes, I respect it. Caps now joining up with the rest of the team. That window has gone. Let's see if G2 can crack the base once again.
Hard setup to do. Astralis will not pick this as their final fight location. Instead, looking to fight in the base, looking for better opportunities. promisq, though, forced to ult early. The true damage coming in for Olaf. Going to ignore all that damage reduction. And for now, G2 just going to be happy with 2 inhibitors. Looks like they'll go for 3. But WhiteKnight making sure to stop the wave here means that Caps instead is going to focus on the Nexus towers. But you can tell that G2 are giving respect over to Astralis. That said, it's going to be the double sleep.
No follow-up, no real follow-up there. Zanzarah's gonna come out.
Trading the Zanyas for an ult, but he is gonna get knocked back flawlessly timed by Wunder. Mikyx now pushing in, is gonna manage to find stun. The follow-up is instantly there. Oh, this is where the buff is just too powerful. nukeduck running for the hills, but the Dragon is executing left and right, and Jeskla can try to spin all he wants, and it might be enough. He's turning it back. He's walking right into the stun, and he doesn't know it. The leap forward, that's gonna do it. WhiteKnight running for the hills. The snapback is there. He buys a bit of time with the stopwatch of his own, and now he's flashing out to safety. Maybe if he goes Mega, maybe, just maybe, WhiteKnight can turn it back, but no. The Dragon buff comes through in the end. The ace for G2, and they will take the game over Astralis. Although, without a minion wave, it's going to take a few extra seconds.
Chaotic game. KDAs have been ruined, but G2 got what they wanted. They will secure the win. Astralis will drop to 1 and 3. But what a hectic and fun game we had today.
Absolutely fantastic here in the final moments. A back and forth, and you'll love to see it.
Whew. Nukeduck at 10 deaths. It felt like that there was just never an off switch, you know, between these two teams. Constant skirmishing, but it felt like that every single time G2 was coming out on top. And again, I really want to praise what we saw from Zanzarah. I think that he just showcased really good awareness of what was going on the map, where they had pressure, what they were doing, and he was clearly communicating with his team what Jankos was doing and where he was on the map. But unfortunately for him, I think one of the biggest differences we saw was just how well the team enables Jankos as well. And while I think that sometimes in the early game, to Jankos' detriment, he plays to support his laners, they then make it back up to him later on into the game where they work with him, they help him get deep vision, and they're just constantly supporting him and they help him snowball the game. So like, huge game from G2 and a very impressive performance from Jankos especially.
Yeah, and obviously at a certain point he was also just feeding himself money.
He said
he was very strong.
They got to a point in the late game fights where he was just running in 1v9 and just killing everyone.
The nerfs were not enough, Mark Yetter. Knock him down another peg. Make Olaf unplayable. It's what everybody wants. Non-interactive champion. You just RuneScape duels. He just walks in here. Jankos, Caps, and Rekkles are your key player of the game. Options at LEC on Twitter. I think
Rekkles also played super well. I think it's
also had a good
between Rekkles and Jankos for me, but of course you guys get the choice, but you have to go on Twitter and vote. Otherwise, it doesn't count.
After this, though, we're going to have a clash between old teammates after the break as Wunder faces Rogue for the first time since his departure.
Odo has the flank, true shot barrage comes out, last look with the stun lands on Tink, and Odo is in the perfect position.
Odo has been playing for a long time, just like me. He can be like the backbone with the care of the team, but he also had like worse seasons, so.
That's a golden Niski! Battlestorm! Golden! As Selfmade runs away!
They get another one! Look at him! Vedius goes in! He gets
I'm aware of how big of an opportunity this is for me. I just want to make use of it and prove my skill again.
everyone, welcome back to LEC Week 2 now. Before jumping onto the next game, there's an important chat I would like to have with Flyy. How are you, Flyy? It's been ages on the broadcast.
Yep, it's been quite a while. Feeling a little bit nervous after 2 years without broadcast interview, but ready to tackle it on.
You shouldn't. Ready to hear the knowledge about Rogue, because the team has been so successful so far. And I remember Odoamne last week telling in post-game lobby about the philosophy at Rogue. So I'm interested now. I want to know more. What is this philosophy?
So I'll start a little bit backwards from the philosophy. When we went into the LEC, when we got the franchise lot and everything, we came without the options that G2, Fnatic, Mad Lions and all those teams had, which was already established, really good top players being under contract with them. So our only path to basically have a hope to be on the top of the table at some point was to find those diamonds in the rough and develop them. So our strategy from the very beginning was actually developing those people, and we've had quite a bit of success, I guess, with those. There's no proper coaching on how to develop a rookie in esports. We can compare it a lot to sports and what they have, but it's really different because over there you start with from really young age to develop those people, while we don't have over here. A lot of the rookies come directly from home, from high school, and be thrown in the LEC. So we build a plan around 3 tentpoles, as we call them over here, that how to develop those people. Those 3 main things are, we look at all the first one is we look at all the angles around a player, what he brings to the team, what was the interaction since his previous team to jungle, to others, what was the reason why he's good and what he brings to the team. The second one is a big thing for us. It's that support structure that we have behind the team. We've had a joke years ago where the manager is supposed to make sure that the player is only focused on his game and nothing else. Now we can actually do it with a lot of more staff than just the team manager, with cooks, physiotherapists, with psychologists, mental training, the strategical coaches, and everything else. I can talk a lot hours about this, but there's a good interview from this week that you did with Odoamne. If people want to know more about it, they can jump and watch it. But the support staff is the second tentpole. The third one that is, for me, personally the most important, because a lot of people, ownerships of organization don't understand it, it's that you need time to make all this work. You need to make sure that you give those rookies the proper conditions and the time to develop, and not just to bring them into the LEC and burn them out for a split and they lose their careers for the future.
That is a lot of info, and this explains the diamonds in the rough you were mentioning, because most of the players from Ego Rogue last year are in the LEC this year. So Flyy, thank you so much for all these insights, and I wish you guys good luck in the game today.
Thank you.
And back to you.